Is bug bounty right for government? Is this idea that we pay for a successful vulnerability finding the right way to go to secure government systems? I think so, but it has to be done correctly. We need to apply rigorous vetting controls around the researchers who are participating. We don't want the whole Russia fiasco to happen again. We need to actually ensure that these are trusted experts that are participating in these bounty programs. We also need technology controls around this so that we can turn the testing on and off at will. It's very important that we be able to monitor the testing activity for both analytics so we can figure out what gets the most attention and what maybe didn't get covered in the test, but also to control a crowd. Crowdsourcing can be highly inefficient if we're not controlled with technology. And so I think the lessons learned from the government challenges that we've done come out to be, you need technology controls around the testing, you need vetting of the researchers, and you also need the ability to integrate well with the customer's own vulnerability management, acquisition, development process. We want to be able to make these systems more resistant to attack, and to do that, you have to be able to tell the customer exactly where to spend their development resources and where the system might be weakest. And so we always try to apply that analysis on the back end of engagement so that they can make prioritization decisions around their future development activities. One of the great things that came out of the first government pilots on Hack the Pentagon is that we decided to separate the engagement into two functional areas. Functional area one is the open model, where you're able to engage a large group of researchers, but it's more open in that it can be unrestricted by country of origin. It can be unrestricted by network segment that you're coming from. You can test from anywhere in the world. It's very open, and this is typically used for systems that are on the internet directly. So maybe a blog site, maybe a media site, something that is accessible throughout the world. And then we also developed Function Area 2, and this is where Synack specializes. That allows us to do testing in more of a production-grade environment where we're operating on segmented networks. Also testing sensitive systems that may handle classified data, and testing in areas where we need to go further in the development lifecycle, where we actually may expose source code through the process, or libraries that need to be kept secret by the virtue of the data they process. And so in Function Area 2, we're able to do a lot more activities for the government that de-risk the crowdsourcing process and allow us to test systems that you would have never thought would be exposed beyond the contractors that are building the system. So we've really enjoyed working on these projects, and the main reason is that we're able to work on projects and systems that really have a mission impact. It's really about making sure that the warfighter is secure in the actions that they do on a daily basis, and making sure that their systems are not susceptible to foreign attack in times of war. And so we've tried to bring together probably the most motivated group of hackers I've seen in my lifetime, other than the NSA, that actually are able to give back to the country and contribute significant findings that make us measurably more secure. To measure success, it's very different between these Function Area 1 and Function Area 2 targets. Function Area 1 is mainly measured on number of vulnerabilities discovered. And that's an easy one to measure, but it doesn't tell you much about how resistant the system is to attack, and they don't have telemetry data telling you exactly what was tested during the course of the engagement. For Function Area 2, we anticipated going after much more hardened systems. And on these harder targets, it's important to measure how resistant it is to attack using different metrics, like how difficult it was for a researcher to find the vulnerability, how many steps did they have to go through, and how much traffic did they have to transmit on the wire to cause a certain effect is important, and we measure that directly. We also spend a lot of time measuring for impact. It's more important for us to have, take 3 or 4 low-hanging fruit vulnerabilities, combine them into an operational capability that presents to the customer a high-impact vulnerability than it is for us to present 4 issues. We're much more focused on the mission outcomes, and we put ourselves in the adversary's seats and say, if we were a bad guy and we wanted to cause this effect operationally in the real world, what kind of capability would we need? And then we motivate researchers to go after that capability and spend time building it. So it's a much more different, it's a much different deliverable for us, and we spend a lot of time thinking about what the adversary would do. With that, we also stick around for remediation and mitigation. So we like to stay around after the engagement and coach the development teams on how to make the system more resistant to those types of attacks. What kind of fixes might work in the short term, and what kind of fixes would be necessary in the long term, because sometimes it does require a re-architecture. So we spend a lot of time in function area 2 on these high-end systems, really focused on what we can deliver from an impact standpoint and how we make them better over time.